Okay, yeah, please find a chair to sit down if you can. We have a lot of people here tonight. I get to take my mask off because I'm distanced from everybody, and I have to do a lot of talking tonight. My name is Judith Weiss. I am the co-chair of the Rocky River chapter of League of Women Voters of Greater Cleveland, and I'm also your moderator tonight. Thank you all for coming, for wanting to be informed citizens. The League of Women Voters sponsors this event. We are a nonpartisan political organization that encourages informed and active participation in government, works to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and influences public policy through education and advocacy. The League did not publish a voter's guide. We are pretty much transitioning from the printed voter's guide to the online version, which is vote411.org, where you can find a lot of useful information, not only about the candidates, but the voting process. Now, the first thing I have to do tonight is make a couple of corrections to the printed program, and one of our volunteers very kindly crossed out some of the mistakes. We had listed Brian Sindelar as an incumbent for City Council, and he is not. So that's been corrected. And then also, as far as the timing, we have a lot of candidates for both sections, so I think it's going to go pretty much to the whole 2 hours. But we will try to finish up by 9 o'clock. I'm sure that everybody will feel that's enough. Okay, we're going to quickly review the League's long-established rules being used for this forum. It is a forum to hear and question candidates. It is not a debate, and it's not an opportunity for personal attacks. Candidates should speak about their background and experience, as well as their goals for the position for which they are running. Each candidate may have 2 minutes for an opening statement. Time limits will be strictly enforced. Candidates will receive a 30-second warning and a signal when the time is completed. Only written questions will be accepted. Please raise your hand to receive a card from one of our runners along the sides of the room. They'll hand you a card. You can write your question. Please be succinct and clear, legible. Runner will take it then to the screener's table. And please indicate whether your question is for the Board of Education candidates or the City Council. The screeners are here to provide, They're here to avoid duplication, to provide diversity, and to ensure appropriateness. Duplicate or related questions may be combined or paraphrased. We will attempt to vary the order in which the candidates may respond to questions. And finally, we ask the cooperation of the audience in avoiding expression of support or opposition to any candidate during the presentation time or answers to questions. No applause, no foot stomping, no cat calls, no jeers, no throwing of rotten tomatoes. We're all very civilized and respectful citizens here in Rocky River. So anyway, any noises or interruptions could interrupt the candidate's train of thought and takes away from their time. I'm going to ask everybody to keep your masks on except when you're speaking. Okay, so we will hear from the candidates this evening in the following order. The Rocky River Board of Education, and you see them here. The uncontested candidates for Rocky River City will be introduced, followed by candidates for Rocky River Council at Large and for Council Wards 1 and 3. So, the candidates for Rocky River Board of Education are here, and I think we will start at this end of the table and do it in alphabetical order. So, Mr. Barchie, you have 2 minutes to make an introductory statement.
Hello, my name is Chuck Barchie. For the residents since '93, I'm a CPA, went to John Carroll, went to St. Ed's, had 2 kids, raised in this community. Chuck. Chuck Barchie. I've lived in this community since 1993. Started to raise my family here. I love this community. When I came here, we were #1 in Cleveland Magazine. I still think we are. You know, I started back, even thinking about running. I ran in 2009, decided very early this year to run again. And I just wanted to use my expertise as finance for that. And what happened? Well, the levy failed. Why did the levy fail? Well, a lot of times people had hard economic times, and the additional expense was just too much for them. People were upset with the loss, with the way Goephert was handled by the teachers and their education of their children. Now we have a mask mandate. We had 6 teachers' careers ended over allegedly inappropriate event. The administration appeared less than fair in handling this matter. And probably the most important thing, and why this room is filled with people, is that we have a curriculum that promotes the tenets of critical race theory. It was taught without the parents being informed. You'll hear it tonight over and over, we don't do it, we don't do it. Or if you go to Rock River Citizens for Transparency.org, you'll hear a diversity class in which they teach CRT. You'll hear about the Dominant group, you'll hear about the Subordinate group. And that's why I spoke on May 20th and told them to discontinue the contract with the Diversity Center of Northeast Ohio. And that's why I'm here, because I need schools to get back in their lane. They need to be worried about academics,
Mr. Barchie,
athletics, and arts.
Okay, thank you, sir. Mr. Corrigan.
Yeah, hello, can you hear me okay? Yeah, thanks. First of all, thanks everybody for coming and the people in the back, for wearing through the whole event and having a stand. Thank you. My name is Peter Corrigan. I'm a native of Rocky River. I was born in Rocky River a very long time ago. I actually attended Rocky River schools back when they were on Worcester Road, and our family left. And when I got married, I came back, moved back into the city, was here for about 4 years, and then left again. Left the city for essentially for work reasons. I spent time in Detroit, spent time in Buffalo, I spent time in London, I spent time in Buenos Aires, I spent time pretty much all over the world as an international executive for a multinational. I was the COO, I had 2,800 employees, and I managed 15 factories on 5 continents. My background really is rooted in that, but in addition to that, we sold our company in 2014, and I semi-retired, and I became a professor, and for the last 6 years, I've been teaching at the university level. Teach at a school that's a highly diverse school. I have a number of minority and female students, and they are outstanding, wonderful students, and I spend my time trying to cultivate their knowledge and trying to cultivate their opportunities for advancement. I think that's it. I can answer any questions for anybody afterwards.
Thank you. Ms. Folliett-Munk.
Is this on? I'm Danielle Folliett-Munk. My husband and I moved our 2 children who are 8 and 13 here 8 years ago solely for this school district. I didn't grow up here, so I offer a very different perspective. I went to school in Parma, and my school district suffered. Our levies failed over and over. We lost our buses, sports, many art programs. This community is so very different. I can see the pride people have in our schools and community, and I truly believe the foundation of a strong community is an even stronger school district. In college, I studied business, and I paid for my education myself. After graduation with almost nothing, my husband and I started our business from a small spare bedroom, and we built it from the ground up. 25 years later, we've been recognized as one of the top search firms in the country. We did this debt-free, so I know how to build something from nothing and be financially responsible. I'm also almost incapable of quitting, and it's been said I'm honest to a fault. You may not always agree with me, but you will always know where I stand. I truly believe we grow as human beings through our open dialogue, especially with those that have different views. My perspective is just that. It's my own. I've talked to so many people in the last month and had several people call me out on things I got wrong, and after examination, they were right. Because again, my experience has led me to what I believe, but as a school board member, we represent every parent, child, teacher, and resident. We need to be open-minded and recognize that even though our district is in a strong position, we can always do better. Complacency can lead to negative outcomes. Obviously, the 9 of us sitting here have very different views. However, we have the same common goal, providing our students the highest level of education. We're going to have to come together to create solutions, reach goals, and be positive forward thinkers, and be role models to our children. It's no secret I love this community. I'm so thankful every day that I get to live here. My kids are so tired of me telling them how fortunate they are to have this school district and the opportunities it provides. But as I've stated, we need to keep improving. We need to stay globally competitive. The world is a huge place, and our kids need to be prepared to enter that world, whatever it looks like. My main goal is to provide an education to each child that allows them to become the best version of themselves. I will never quit, and I will never fall short of my promise to keep Rocky River Schools one of the best in the state. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Folliett-Munk. And now we have Mr. Forrest.
Good evening. If the events of the past year have taught us anything, it's that the school district faces new challenges, issues, and opportunities that can only be met with new ideas and ways of thinking. It requires new talent. Over the past year, Rivers found itself arguing over events that have happened as if they haven't, the teacher scandal, accusing teachers of teaching something that they aren't, CRT, and treating medical science and propaganda as equals, which they are not. Some believe that everything is fine and we should maintain the status quo, but if that was true, what were all the contentious board meetings about? It was as if a Band-Aid was ripped off of an unseen wound that was festering underneath. Some feel that if we just put the Band-Aid back on the wound, it would just go away, but medically and realistically, we know that it would just make it worse. An existential threat from downstate would determine the future of Ohio and Rivers' public education system in Senate Bills 322 and 327. If adopted, we need to look no further than Texas to see the damage and chaos that will occur in blocking off sections of libraries, banning books in classrooms, and cherry-picking events in history that teach so-called divisive concepts. Local organizations that are here are proponents of these bills, and they seek to undermine public education as we know it. Board of Ed elections do matter. I'm Darryl Forest. I'm a single dad, product of and passionate believer in the power of public education, enough to have my 2 kids in the middle and high school because of my faith in it. I hold a Bachelor of Science in Industrial Engineering and Industrial Management from Purdue University. I've held engineering positions in General Motors and Mobile Oil Corporation, and over the last 25 years, I've worked for multiple biopharmaceutical companies, primarily in the area of cancer treatment and research, which includes various training positions. My expertise and experience in systems problem solving and education will serve the community well when it comes to the complex challenges and issues River City's schools face. My platform is as following the public health officials on public health issues, ongoing focus on what's best for the entire student body, reestablished commitment to DE&I initiatives, elevated excellence in education, STEAM focus, and transparency in leadership.
Mr. Forrest, thank you very much. We next have Kelly Frindt.
Hello. All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for coming. My name is Kelly Frint, and I am a born and raised native of Rocky River, a product of the Rocky River City Schools. I come for this position as a parent with young kids. I have a son that is a second grader at Goldwood, and I have a daughter who will be entering Goldwood in a few years. I truly believe there needs to be a parent viewpoint on the Board of Education. I'm an educator. I taught for 8 years. I taught with diverse populations, with little resources, and I did a lot with it. I was also able to be a testing coordinator with all of a K-8 building. I was a data coordinator to help find the weaknesses in my students through that K-8 building. And I was our special education liaison. I attended all the special education meetings as one of the administrators in the building. I have continued my education this summer with an educational finance class. I truly believe an educator should be a prospective on board vet. As I said earlier, I am an alum, so I have a lot of love to this community and this school district. I'm also a community leader. I am currently the president of the Early Childhood PTA. I'm a member of the Goldwood PTA, and I have done a lot with the community, such as All Aglow and helping to get Safety Town back up and running. Last but not least, I'm a taxpayer, just like every single person in here, and I want to make sure that we are financially responsible with all of our money and make sure that all of our students are getting every resource that they can have in order to be successful. So I thank you all for being here again, and I will take any questions afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Frindt. And now we have Ms. Gupford.
Good evening. My name is Kathy Gupford. I am seeking re-election to the Rocky River Board of Education. I truly enjoy my time as a board member, and I believe it is important to give back to the community. Rocky River schools have given my children a great education. I want to continue moving this district forward and continue to demand the high standard of education the citizens of Rocky River deserve. I bring to the board 20 years of experience, a master's degree in public administration. I'm a graduate of Cleveland State's Leadership Academy. I have 34 years of public service, including 25 years of experience in budget research, analysis, and preparation. This background helps me to attain the goal of maintaining a school district that is fiscally responsible and accountable to you, the residents of Rocky River. My 3 overall priorities are academics, finance, and safety. During my tenure, we have eliminated the 3-year levy cycle that had been in place since the 80s. We have consistently ranked in the top 10 on the state report card. We now offer 18 advanced placement courses. We have dual credit opportunities through Cuyahoga Community College. We are members of the West Shore Career Tech District. We have 3 student resource officers in our buildings. If elected, I would like to strengthen our technology offerings and continue to hire skilled and highly qualified teachers. I am committed to continue the excellent working relationship that exists between your Board of Education, Rocky River City leaders, and other local organizations. I have served on many committees over the years. I currently serve on the Rocky River Recreation Commission. I taught PSR for 6 years at St. Christopher. My participation with various groups throughout the community provides me the opportunity to interact with a wide variety of parents and community members, thus gaining valuable feedback on what is important to the families of Rocky River. I ask for your support in re-electing me, Kathy Gupford, to the Rocky River Board of Education. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gupford. And now we have Lauren Negrete.
Okay, I don't do all the time things, so I might talk fast. My name is Laurie Negrete, and there are a few things that I want you to know about me and why they matter for this role. I am a counselor through and through. My career is dedicated to helping people be the best version of themselves. I help people identify opportunities for growth, and we make a plan and we set a goal to achieve that. It has been really cool for me to meet voters because it's been a way for me to hear what you all identify as areas of growth for the district. And one of the things that I've been hearing a lot, and that Jessica and I identified at the very beginning of our campaign, is more consistent and clear communication and accountability from district leaders to the parents and community members. And I feel like this is where I come in. I do this every day. I explore the communication process as a whole, where it's effective, where did it break down, who is not feeling heard and why, and how we can improve that process. And I will bring that service to the community to continue to move the district forward. I'm also a public school educator as a counselor in schools. One of the biggest long-term challenges that I feel facing the school district is understanding and helping students recover from the many obstacles caused by the pandemic. It is not lost on any one of us how difficult the last year and a half have been. The impact has been significant for students of all ages, not only on academics, but on social and emotional well-being. My experience in public school education gives me the credibility to push that public discussion, to ensure that our teachers have the tools they need to identify emerging student needs and create the plans to mitigate the effects of unfinished learning and the increased concerns of student mental health. Because for me, it is not a question, it has a very meaningful place in schools. I also have 3 kids in the district. I have a 5th grader, a 3rd grader, and a kindergartner. And I'm invested in their learning outcomes as well as the district's success as a whole. But I'm also committed to working hard to achieve those same outcomes for your kids and your family. My perspective as a parent and my professional background give me the thoughtfulness and insight that I think this job requires. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Negrete. The last person on the dais here is Jessica Wilson.
Good evening, my name is Jessica Wilson and I'm thrilled to be a candidate for the Rocky River School Board. I'm running for school board because of my deep personal commitment to public service. I've spent the majority of my career in public school district administration, both as a leader in the Cleveland Metropolitan School District and as a consultant to school districts and state departments of education across the country. I've led programs, policies, and initiatives that directly impacted the quality of education children receive. I have experience managing both district-level academics, curriculum and standards, and district finances and operations. I'm knowledgeable on state-level policy and law that drive how our schools operate, and our district-level policy. Finally, I have experience managing public budgets and the knowledge and skill necessary to examine revenues and make wise spending decisions. In addition to my professional background, I'm the parent of 2 children in the Rocky River schools, a 4th grader and a 2nd grader. I have vested interest as both both a parent and a taxpayer in our schools remaining excellent, and in moving forward to ensure all of our students get the education they deserve. My goal running for this 4-year school board term is to focus on the long-term goals we all share for our community. I have 3 long-term priorities. The first is continued academic excellence for all of our community's children. I commit to ensuring our teachers and staff have the resources and support they need to meet our students where they are, and to ensure continued excellence, particularly as we work with children to overcome barriers caused by the pandemic. Second, strong operations and fiscally sound decision-making. I will use my experience in public district finance and operations to make sound decisions that both meet the needs of children and reflect the wishes of our community. Lastly, comprehensive communication and responsiveness. The school board is meant to represent all of us, and I commit to making sure all voices are heard. Thank you for being here, and to the organizers of our forum, I look forward to answering more questions.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson. And now we have one more candidate who couldn't be here tonight, but she has sent in a statement. And she says, "My name is Laurie Rauser. Thank you for the opportunity to introduce myself as a candidate for the Rocky River School Board. My husband Richard and I have been residents of Rocky River for over 17 years. We currently have a daughter in the school system. Professionally, I have over 30 years experience in healthcare revenue management, holding various director-level roles for national and international healthcare corporations, hospital systems, and physician groups. There are many reasons that led me to the decision of running for a school board seat this year. I would like to share a few with you tonight. If you're a parent of a Rocky River student, as I am, you have the right to complete transparency about student curriculum. You have the ultimate authority to make decisions for your child regarding their safety, their environment, and any social or emotional learning curriculum the school may offer. Lately, our administration has not been as transparent as it should be regarding the expanded teachings beyond the 3 R's. In particular, the so-called diversity curriculum that adopts elements of critical race theory and transgender confusion. I feel the current board has not held the administration accountable for transparency into these curriculums. Our children are being exposed to political ideologies that many parents may not agree with. When elected, I will support no additions to the curriculum of this sort without consulting parents in the most transparent manner. I believe the school board should always be aligned with federal, state, and county mandates and laws. Additionally, the current school board has overstepped its authority by imposing mandates such as those regarding masking and at-home learning at times when it was not mandated by law. Live instruction is necessary for proper education. If elected, I will carefully review any precautions which have the potential to interfere with the education of our children. It's also important to maintain our school's ranking of excellent. It's the #1 reason most families move to Rocky River. Thank you. Okay, that ends the introductory statement part of our program. And now it's time for some questions of these candidates. We have our screening committee who will start to assemble questions. Okay. We have many questions, so we're going to try our best to combine the questions that are repetitious and need to be translated. But okay, and if anybody else has questions that you haven't turned in yet, please raise your hand. One of our student volunteers will come by and give you a card to write your question on, and they'll bring it up here to the screeners, and we'll hope that we get to as many as we can. Okay, well, we've heard this term a couple of times already, so it's time to define it. How does each school board candidate define critical race theory? And what evidence do you have that it is being taught in the Rocky River schools? And I guess I'm going to start in the middle and work our way out. So, Ms. Frint, would you go first?
All right, so definition of CRT is a college-level course. I currently do not believe there is any evidence that we are teaching it at the Rocky River City Schools. It is something that I believe has always been at a college level for students to think about as they've gotten older. And again, I do not believe there's any evidence to be talked about.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Forrest?
So the definition of critical race theory is an analysis of racist policies in the past that have been placed in institutions and in government, and if and how that might translate to something today. So first off, it is not diversity, equity, and inclusion. Those two are not synonymous with one another. A way for you to think about this is the following. The Emancipation Proclamation actually had an out clause. It said that slavery was eliminated unless a crime was committed. Then peonage started, which was a way for the prison systems to lease out prisoners to the railroads and to even the places that the slaves came from. Black codes was the way to do it, and then today you ask yourself, well, do we have anything that looks like that? It's called for-profit prisons. That is one analysis of what we call critical race analysis. That is not something that is talked about in the context of any K through 12 school anywhere in this country. It is a smokescreen that's trying to attack diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives.
Thank you, Mr. Forrest. Okay, Ms. Folliett-Munk.
So, I have spoken with several people that have said critical race theory is not being taught. It stems from critical legal theory, which, yes, is a collegiate level course. That being said, I feel like this term is now being used as an umbrella to encompass so many things, diversity being one of them. I don't support CRT in our schools, and I won't. That doesn't mean I don't think inclusion and kindness and all these other areas should be promoted. But just like I don't believe politics, religion, or personal agendas belong in our school, just like it's not being taught in our schools, it doesn't belong there. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gupford.
First, what is critical race theory? This goes back years ago, and it was civil rights scholars and activists that came together to look at the way U.S. laws and race intersect. And it's been blown up. We do not teach it. We follow the standards from the Ohio Department of Education. Critical race theory is not part of the standards. We do not teach it. We do teach history, just like the history we've all learned. But no, we are not teaching it, and I don't see us going anywhere near it. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Negrete.
Yes, so CRT is, it's a theory that is that was designed by legal scholars. I have children in the district, and I've had conversations with administration and current board members and other parents, and they are not, to my knowledge, they are not teaching it, so I have no evidence that it is currently being taught in the district. I do agree that I think that it has become an umbrella term, it's sort of a distracting term, for education. It's DEI falls under it. I also think that social emotional learning has sort of fallen under that umbrella. And for me, I think that social and emotional development definitely has its place in schools. It is how children start to understand who they are and what they're feeling and how to engage with the world. So yes, I don't think that CRT is being taught right now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Corrigan.
Yeah, sorry, how long do we have?
90 seconds.
So, critical race theory defines and divides people into two categories, the oppressors and the victims. It's based on, rooted in the fact that our country or our society was founded on slavery and was founded on racism. I don't really buy that to start with. The Rocky River School District has said that they don't teach critical race theory. If you take the definition that I just explained to everyone, formally, when the school district says it's not being taught, we take that, but anecdotally, we don't accept that. The problem that we have with the school system and critical race theory is we have students coming home and giving us anecdotal information about what's happening in the schools. We have students that are coming home crying because they're told they're white and they're scarred and they're damaged. We have students who are coming home and complaining that they're being asked who their parents voted for and made to stand up based on that vote. The school district has no business asking that kind of information. So critical race theory, whether or not it's in the school system or not, anecdotally, there is a lot of evidence that suggests that it is, and we need to take it out of our system once and for all.
Thank you, Mr. Corrigan. Mr. Barchie.
I'm going to read transcript from the Diversity 101 course that was taught in Rock River. Another way we can think of it is people are in this world separated into groups. Society separated us into groups. You have a dominant group and you have a subordinate group. So if we think about dominant group right now, they are considered the norm, what's normal. So if the dominant group is considered what's the norm, then what do you think about the other group, which is the subordinate group? Yeah, minority are not considered the norm. I mean, this is at www.RockyRiverCitizensForTransparency.org. You'll hear full audio of a student and teacher from the Diversity Center teaching this course. So that is CRT, and that's been proven into the being taught in our thing. I believe what Condoleezza Rice said just the other day, I believe it was on The View. We can't make minority kids feel good about themselves by making white kids feel bad about themselves. I also have heard people talk about their kids coming home and being embarrassed. And I know they're making embarrassed of our country too, because the other proof is that kids are kneeling during the national anthem at our football games because they feel embarrassed about what we did instead of proud of our country.
Thank you, Mr. Barchie. And now Ms. Wilson.
Critical race theory is an understanding that who we are, the laws we have in place, the histories that have been handed down to us are all shaped by race. It is taught in law and graduate schools, not in K-12 education, and not in Rocky River. As any teacher or parent knows, the school is a place where children develop their understanding of the world and their ability to make meaningful change in it. One of our strategic priorities as a Rocky River district is global competitiveness. A goal in our strategic plan from 2009 is that students understand and are contributing participants in a diverse global setting. To ensure that our students are globally competitive when they leave our district, we must prepare them to operate in a diverse and changing world. We want our children, and I want our children, to have a meaningful education that imparts honesty about who we are, integrity in how we treat others, and courage to do what is right. If elected to the board, I would support efforts to re-engage in diversity programming, not only for students, but to ensure staff and teachers have the resources that they need. If we are not teaching our children about critical issues in our society and how to take information, think critically, and make their own decisions, we are doing them a grave disservice.
Thank you. We got that over with. Thank goodness. The school board's job is to deal with policy and strategy. What experience do you have with strategic planning for large organizations? And why don't we start with Mr. Corrigan?
I was the chief strategic planner for a $320 million corporation and took it from $120 million to $320 million. And a strategic plan isn't a tactical plan, it's an integrated plan that talks about where you're taking your business, where you're taking your organization, let's say, and how you're matching the financials of the organization to the direction of the organization. Looked at the Rocky River School Board School District's strategic plan. It has a lot of nice tactics in it. It's a good plan, but it really lacks the ability to meld the financials in our annual financial budget, to meld those with what their actual steps are. The school district wants to come up with various plans and so forth, but there's really not a cost attached to those, from what I can tell, my reading of the budget. So strategic planning involves working on both sides of those, coming up with a set of objectives and expensing those objectives or assigning expenses to those objectives so you don't run out of money and you don't miss your plan. I also just want to say, when you miss your strategic plan, you need a contingency plan. And I don't see where we necessarily have the right contingency plan. We have a lot of problems that are going to be facing us over the next 4 years. We have a a contract coming up, we have a levy problem, we have a number of issues that need to be solved financially. So I have background and experience to do that.
Thank you. We'll go to Ms. Negrete. Negrete, sorry.
Yeah, so my personal experience with strategic planning, I think, comes in with my board service for a local preschool. I was on that board for 4 years. And it was in that regard where I was able to, kind of help them create those long-term plans and taking a look at our community and what are the needs of the community and how do we get there. And in that instance, it was for our young families. And I think in terms of policies, particularly over the last, is it 2 years already? I was instrumental for that board in helping them create the policies to help manage the pandemic. We were able to keep our kids in school, and I feel like my perspective on that for them was very, very helpful. So that's my personal experience with strategic planning and policy.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Wilson?
So I've spent most of my career in leading strategic planning initiatives, largely for school districts and state departments of education. And what I've learned about strategic planning is there are some steps to take to make sure the plan is actually useful and focused on the right things. So the first is to really assess the current landscape. So our strategic plan in Rocky River was written in 2009. And so it's probably time for to see what's happened in the world, what's happened in sort of expectations for students. The second is to go to stakeholders. So it's not just the board that gets to say what's in a plan. It's teachers, it's staff, students, parents, taxpayers. The third then is to set clear goals that include metrics for how we know we're actually meeting those goals. What are we tracking to know if we're on track or off track? And then to create tactical plans and budgets to make sure that those goals can be accomplished. I've done that in several cases, including with the Cleveland Metro Schools, as well as the State Department of Education in the state of Delaware. So I have deep experience in this space in public schools.
Thank you. Mr. Barchie?
My experience has been very thorough. I've been a controller for many companies and have gone through the strategic process. In fact, I was on that strategic team in 2009 for the schools. So I was part of that team, and we made that plan. Specifically, I would tell you that if elected, that I would like to move our levy cycle to a 6-year levy cycle rather than the 4 or 5 year we have now. We've had a big increase in our valuations of our property, and as I go around, a lot of people tell me it's very challenging for them financially to have a levy so frequently. We have a very good school district. We pay our teachers very well, we pay a lot of staff. I'm not talking about cutting anybody, I'm just talking about slowing of the growth. And so I think that if we move to that 6, it would be very good. But it would be something that would take a lot of leadership on the board, somebody that could really figure that out and make that successful.
Thank you. Ms. Gupford?
I was part of the original strategic plan. The district brought in a facilitator. We brought community members, teachers, community leaders together, and we had different subgroups, like the one I was on the first time we did this. I was on communication. We have had updates to the strategic plan. We've met. That year I was on the finance group, and we would meet regularly. Everybody would come in their subgroups, present what they think needed, and from all these subgroups and all the people participating, we came up with a strategic plan, and then we updated it about, I want to say, don't quote me, but I think maybe 5-6 years later, we updated it and looked at things again and made changes where we needed to. And I look forward to looking at it again. But I like the strategic plan we have in place. We, like I said, we've had a facilitator because we weren't experts in it back then, and we still aren't experts now. So we do look to people with expertise to help us guide us.
Thank you. Ms. Folliett-Munk?
So, as I mentioned, I run a business, for 25 years. I consult to huge healthcare organizations and have been a part of their strategic planning. I've got that, not a problem, but What I'd like to bring it to everybody's attention, if the last 18 months has taught us nothing, it's that we can plan all day long, which we still should continue to do, but more importantly, we need to prepare for the unexpected. We need to be able to pivot immediately. I think the way we do this, obviously, is to just communicate, keep talking to stakeholders. But again, when it comes to strategic planning, we can do that all day long, but we need to prepare for when the unexpected happens. No one knows what tomorrow's gonna hold. COVID was a huge wake-up call to so many people. I had healthcare organizations that went out of business. These were people that had amazing strategic plans in place, but when they closed for 1 month, that was it, out of business. So not that that would happen with our school district, but I just wanna make sure that we're prepared for the unexpected at all times.
Thank you. Mr. Forrest.
So I've been part of budget analysis and strategic teams as an engineer when I was designing facilities. As you've always heard, make the plan, execute the plan, and reevaluate the plan to make sure that you hit your targets. When we're making the plan, you have to brainstorm and entertain ideas from a number of sources and definitely from the stakeholders. When we're looking at executing the plan, you want to do so with communication to the stakeholders in terms of where we're at, and then lastly, reevaluate that plan. Currently, when we look at the levies and how this whole thing has been going on, when you look at our funding sources from federal, state, and local funds, the levy is the one that is from the local fund in terms of the property taxes. Right now, we should be worried about what's going to happen on the state level, because if the backpack, a scholarship, ever comes into fruition, that is going to provide vouchers for every single student in the entire Ohio state area, which will take away from our budgeting funding for the public school system. So right now we are ranked 13 in terms of our pupil expenditure, around $13,000, with our instruction and student support at 59.6%. So what we're going to have to do is really just evaluate what do we have in terms of expenditures, school buildings, equipment, those type of current assets, and then look at things that are fixed cost, variable, necessary, aspirational, one-time expenditures, and reoccurring, and then plan.
Thank you. And Ms. Frint.
So as an educator, I was actually part of my school's strategic planning and did a lot of policy work. I worked with a very diverse population, so we had to really kind of think outside of the box when it came to education. We needed to make sure that we talked to all of the people that were important, the parents, the kids, the staff, our board, anybody that was going to have any say and that needed to have the say when we were creating that plan. We also needed to make sure that we could assess everything. Assess, reassess, look at the data. I am a data person. That's also why I was part of the data coordinator. I was the data coordinator at my school. The data runs a lot of the numbers. It runs your budget. It runs how your kids are doing. All of those things need to work together in order to be successful and have your strategic plan make your children successful. So strategic planning, like everybody else has said, is very important, and it always needs to be looked at, and we need to continue to look at it to make sure we are changing with our changing times.
Thank you. Time for another question. I have two here that I think really are very similar and could be combined. So it is sometimes big problems come up, and everyone seems to have a different opinion. How would you handle balancing many different opinions and coming to a conclusion that works best for the students? And corollary to that, would you support community meetings or panels to share accurate information about hot topics in an effort to combat misinformation? And where shall we start? How about Ms. Folliett-Munk?
Is this on? Sorry.
So I think communication is key, and I said in the last forum, I think it would be extremely beneficial to do more of a town hall type meeting. Dealing with students, I think we need to ask them. When something arises, it seems that all the parents jump to it, but these are things that affect the students. And some of these students are almost adults. So again, getting people together, teachers, parents, educators, every member of the community, and allowing them to talk. Although the board meetings they're great. We're very limited on the time that we can express our concerns. And I feel that if people feel like they're heard and that their input is actually appreciated, everybody in the community is going to feel better about the decisions that are made. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Gupford.
Big problems. We have just been living with a big problem called COVID. That's been an issue, as we all know, and it's come to the board. We've had text, emails, meetings screaming at us, which is your right. We work for you. You're our employers. We listen. We also have to take into consideration what is best for the children. As everybody knows, I wanted schools open as soon as we can, as long as it was safe. Well, the data started going up. COVID cases started going up in the river. Well, we couldn't open. Then it was mask, unmasked. I believe unvaccinated should be masked. I mean, I think we've drawn a line where, okay, our vaccinated don't need to wear a mask. It's highly recommended. You try to come to a consensus, and I hope we have, and we try to do as a board, is we listen to everybody, we listen to the experts, we listen to the administration, their experts, and we try to come up with a solution. And with COVID, I truly believe in my heart that's the best decision we came up with the mask unvaccinated, vaccinated recommended. We opened schools when we knew it was safe. We also had the online schooling at the same time. And remember, when we started open schools in January, we were 15% online, and by the end of the school year, we were down to 8%. So all our safety measures are working in the schools, the hand sanitizing, the air filtration. So we brought a big problem from the community and from everybody and took care of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Wilson.
So being a public leader is all about balancing different opinions and points of view. And I have had that experience in my career. In the spring of 2020, I served as the Chief of Human Resources for a network of schools here in Cleveland and was making many of the same decisions that our administration and board were making. Do we open? If we open, how do we keep students and staff safe? If we don't open, how do we make sure kids get what they need remotely? None of those decisions were hard and none of those were easy, and I know that the same is true for our leaders here in River. What I've learned about public leadership and decision making is to first listen to the diversity of voices, that whether they're the loud voices or not, consult the experts for best practice and make a competent decision, but then have the humility and reflectiveness to revisit decisions if necessary, especially as contexts change, as it has in the pandemic. In terms of the second part of the question about community forums, I support opportunities for parents and families, for taxpayers and residents to learn more about our district. Our district has really done a nice job of increasing the communication with the community, but I think there are more opportunities and would welcome the opportunity to hold forums or other appropriate measures to hear from the community.
Thank you. Mr. Barchie.
I think a lot of these problems we're not going to be able to have an agreement on, and we have all community sessions about things. We can't agree on the stage that CRT is being taught in the classroom. So what do we need? We need freedom. Freedom to decide, the parent, if they want to put a mask on their kid or not. I mean, there's studies that show both ways. We need to be able to allow parents to decide what classes their kid's going to be in, and not force them to be taught something. But the biggest problem is that the school has overstepped their role. They've gone out of their lane. The 3 A's, academics, athletics, and arts is what they need to be worried about. This social emotional learning in which they're trying to go into, they're trying to take the parents' role over. They have an anti-bullying program. Oh, that sounds good. But a father might tell the kid, hit the bully in the nose to solve the problem, or the mother might say something else. So it's up to the parents to decide. We can have all the meetings we want, and I think we should, but at the end of the day, we need to have freedom.
Okay, we still have a couple more people to hear from. Mr. Corrigan.
Sure, I just want to add town halls that aren't affected by sunshine laws. That's one of the big problems the school board is is tightly regulated by those. So an informal town hall, because people want to be heard, they want to understand what's going on, they want to be able to talk, they don't want to be restricted by the 2-minute rule in the formal board meetings. We need a venue where people can understand what's really going on. This all really got started, this whole drama got started because of remote learning, which turned into what exactly are these kids being taught, which turned into a request, a FOIA request for the actual curriculum, which was slow walked. I don't even know if the entire information was ever gotten. We should be entitled to understand what our children are being taught. So I think a whole bunch of additional issues happen, and I think why have town halls? We've got to listen to everyone. We had instead we have provocation. We had a drag queen story hour which exploded. The drag queen story hour. I don't know why we did that when we could have had 100,000 other topics. We could have had astronauts. We could have had businessmen. We could have had engineers. Instead, we picked that. Somebody picked that. It was a provocation, which was totally unnecessary. And instead of listening to the issues, everybody was shut down, and everything exploded. We didn't need that, and we don't need that going forward.
Okay, Ms. Negrete.
The library.
So I think the first thing that we all can agree on is that you're never going to please everybody, right? No matter what kind of decisions you make, you're never going to please everybody. So I think that when you're evaluating big problems, the first thing to do is listen. I think we need to listen to each other and to try to understand and help each other define the issues, because communication truly is the key here. Lots and lots of communication. And even more specifically, the sharing of information. I think that not enough can sometimes lead to uncertainty and miscommunication. So I think the oversharing of information is really beneficial when you're trying to balance opinions. In terms of the support of community panel, I would absolutely support community panels. I think that a partnership-based approach with district leaders and the community, really promotes engagement and helps everybody feel like they have a share in the decision. So when you're informed, you feel like you're more a part of the decision process.
Thank you. We have so many great questions here, and we are running out of time. We've only got about 5 minutes. So I'm going to ask a question that I think is fairly straightforward, and I hope you'll all be able to answer it very quickly. Oh, I'm sorry, did I miss someone? I'm sorry, please, Mr. Forrest.
Oh,
Yeah, well, okay, Ms. Frint.
We're gonna go with the flow here. All right, so balancing big problems. You definitely have to talk to all of the stakeholders when deciding what those big problems are, just to get started. You need to make sure you know the pros and the cons of them. You need to have experts weigh in and make sure everybody is listening to everyone. Listening is a huge key to the communication. Community panels can help in these big problems because you can speak to a lot more people in effective and more comfortable ways. If people are able to meet in small groups and they don't feel like it is a formal setting, they normally will share and talk more than when you are limited to a 2-minute time at a board meeting that you might not be able to get to. So I think making the board approachable and out there for everyone would help a lot of the big problems in our district, and I think it would allow information to get out there to all of the stakeholders in our community.
Thank you. And Mr. Forrest, I'm sorry,
That's okay.
left you out.
So I'll just reiterate, as everyone else has said, communication is key, be it upstream or downstream. First off, I just want to say that with all the things that are going on with COVID, I applaud the administration in terms of the literally Texas two-step that we had in terms of trying to keep up with what was going on. And so that was an easy task. But the question is, and what I always say is in the vacuum void of information, it's plenty of room for misinformation. And that's what we seem to have, and that's what starts chaos and division. So one of the things that we've heard is that we need more convenient times for the board PTA meetings for working parents. Because they're at work and they can't attend these meetings. Maintaining transparency in the programs and projects like the levy, giving information on what it was about, even though, quite frankly, it was just bad timing. And then new mechanisms to obtain pulse of parents, kids, and community through tools like task force and questionnaires. I really, truly believe that you need to do a survey with the kids. I know that one was done. There was some information that they gleaned from it, but the reality is that until you actually ask some very key questions to these kids, you're going to find some very interesting information, especially as it pertains to white kids and kids of diverse backgrounds.
Okay, thank you. I think we've just about reached the end of the time for the Board of Education. I know we have lots more questions and you have lots more to say. I'm just going to leave you with one thing that you can think about. You won't have time to answer, but maybe when you speak with some of the members of our audience afterwards, you'll be able to answer this question for them or for yourself. And the question is, what is your understanding of the role of a school board member and how that relates to the role of the superintendent? I think it's a good question and well worth considering. But we do have to stop at this point. I thank you all